One Chicago neighborhood is focused on two little girls who've been missing since Friday.
July 6, 2001, Tracy Bradley leaves her daughters home alone while she goes to work. She returns to find a note saying they were headed for this school. They never made it.
A massive police investigation by air, water, and along the railroad track.
Within the community, the south side of Chicago, from what I understand, there's been a great deal of suspicion against the mother. That's not to say that she's guilty of anything.
There's no kids out here. It's like this now every day since the children have been missing.
On the summer morning in 2001, in Chicago, a single mother left her 10-year-old and 3-year-old at home alone while she picked up a few hours at work. Before walking out that door, she gave the girls clear instructions. Don't leave this house and do not open the door for anyone. It seemed simple enough, but by the time she returned home, both daughters had vanished without a trace, only leaving behind a note that would torment the family for years. The disappearance of these sisters is one of Chicago's most haunting, unsolved mystery cases that has left a family and community searching for answers for more than 2 decades. Over the years, this case has been filled with leads that went nowhere and suspects who were questioned but never charged. Each clue that brought on a little bit of hope only faded into more questions and heartbreak. But what really happened and who actually took these girls? Was it a stranger, someone they knew, or a darker family secret? Good day, family. I am the Mysterious Black Bandit, and welcome back to another video. Before we get into the disappearance of these sisters, I need y'all to do me a favor. Hit that like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications so you don't miss out on any video when I upload. After you have done that, let's get into this video. Born and raised in Chicago, Illinois, Tracy Bradley, a single mother of 4 girls, lived in the Lake Grove Village apartment on the south side. Tracy was a very devoted mother, but raising 4 daughters alone was a little overwhelming. Each girl had their own vibrant personality. 12-year-old Rita, who was the oldest, was the responsible and mature one who often helped with the younger sisters. Tionda, the 10-year-old, was the sassy and outgoing child. She was kind of shy, but once she got to know you, she would light up the room, dancing and singing and doing whatever else kids do. The third child, Victoria, who was 9, was the spirited and independent child that was always ready for an adventure. Then there was the youngest, Diamond. She was very shy, but a talkative 3-year-old who was very clingy to Tionda. Now, Tracy worked as a waitress to support her 4 daughters and relied heavily on family members to help watch the girls while she went to work. Thankfully, they were a tight-knit family. Tracy and her family members frequently took turns caring for each other's children. They all lived pretty close to each other. The mother lived in the Robert Taylor homes, not far from her apartment, and several of her brothers and sisters were nearby as well. So the girls were often back and forth between their mother's place and the grandmother's home, and were surrounded by cousins, uncles, and aunties. Now, when no one was available to watch them, the girls would often stay at home alone and care for themselves until mama got off or someone older would come by to check on them. Since it was 4 of them and they were surrounded by family members, no one expected anything bad to happen. But on July 6, 2001, everything changed. That morning around 6 a.m., Tracy left Tionda and Diamond at home by themselves so she could pick up a few hours at work. She made sure to tell them, don't answer the door for no one and don't leave the house for anything. Now, usually it's all 4 of the girls at home alone, but this time Rita and Victoria had stayed at the grandmother's house the night before to celebrate Victoria's upcoming birthday and hadn't returned home yet. Although the oldest wasn't there to help watch her younger siblings, Tionda was responsible enough to handle basic tasks like preparing breakfast. Now, between 8 and 9 a.m., Tracy tried calling home 3 times just to check in on them to see how everything was going, but for some reason, no one answered the phone. This was pretty strange because Tionda was usually good about answering the phone when she was at home alone, but maybe they had went back to sleep, so Tracy didn't worry much about it. Now, around 11 a.m. or so, Tracy finally gets off work and returns home. As she was approaching the apartment, she noticed that something was a little off. The front door was locked from the outside with the family's padlock. So Tracy unlocks the door and yells out the girls' names, but there was no answer. She walks in and puts her things down and goes from room to room, still yelling their name, but every room she checked was empty. Trying not to panic, she walks back into the living room, and this is where she noticed a handwritten note on the back of the couch. This letter read, "Mom, me and Diamond are going to the store and do a little playground, and we'll be back shortly." Now, at first glance, the handwriting looked kind of like Tionda's, but she immediately noticed that the grammar and wording was too perfect to be her daughter. She then looks at her phone and seeing that around 8:30 a.m., she had a voicemail from Tionda. This voicemail said, "Mama, this is Tionda. George is at the door. Can I open the door?" He said we was going to Jules for cake. By this time, Tracy didn't know what was going on and started to panic. She contacted family member after family member to see if anyone had seen these girls, but when no one had any information, she immediately dialed 911 to report these girls missing. Within minutes, the police arrived, but back in these days, they didn't have an Amber Alert system in place that could send out messages to everyone's phones. So the police just launched an immediate missing persons search. Just about everyone joined in to search for these little girls. Family members, neighbors, and police all flooded the streets while helicopters circled above. They fanned out all across Brunsville, knocking on everyone's doors, checking abandoned buildings, searching the Washington Park and the Doolittle Playground. By the end of July 6th, there was no trace of Tionda or Diamond. With the circumstances being so suspicious, the FBI stepped in and classified this case as a kidnapping rather than a missing child situation and offered a $10,000 reward for the safe return of these two little girls. In the days that followed, investigators dug into every possible lead. Police and FBI agents questioned neighbors, friends, and family members, just trying to piece together the girls' last movements. Some neighbors reported seeing the sisters play outside that morning, while others claimed they never saw them leave the apartment at all. Now, despite all the resources that was poured into this search, the only thing they had to go off of was this note, that voicemail, and Tracy's apartment. This turned the investigators' focus to Tracy. She was brought in for questioning and was even given a lie detector test to rule out any involvement in her daughter's disappearance. They pressed her the whole time about what really happened that morning. The unanswered calls, and especially the voicemail where Tionda mentioned George was standing at the door. Now, George Washington was Tracy's boyfriend at the time, and he was actually the one that came and picked her up for work. When they asked her why Tionda would say the boyfriend was at the door, she reportedly said she didn't know why her daughter would have called about that, since George should have been at work already. Throughout the entire interrogation, Tracy consistently denied that George had any involvement in the girl's disappearance and basically had his back no matter what they said. Now, when Tracy first took this lie detector test, it indicated that she had some inconsistencies in her answers about the timeline, which raised a lot of questions. However, after a follow-up questioning and clarification, she ultimately passed the test. Once investigators cleared Tracy as a suspect, all eyes were on George. With all the evidence stacking up against him, it made him a prime suspect. They had receipts that showed he had recently purchased 42-gallon trash bags, garden gloves, and protective gloves. When the police later searched his home, those items were nowhere to be found. Then came the polygraph test. The results indicated that he was being deceptive, adding even more weight to the suspicion around him. Things escalated when investigators revealed that a hair matching Tionda's was discovered in the trunk of George's car. Now, when he was questioned about it, he just brushed it off, insisting that it must have just been from previous contact, but the timing of everything just raised a whole bunch of red flags. On top of that, neighbors also reported seeing him burning something in a barrel on July 6th. Now, one of the things that was very, very weird is in the days leading up to July 6th, George did something that was way out of character. He planned a camping trip for Tracy, Diamond, and Tionda, which sounds harmless, but what was strange about it is that first, Victoria had a birthday coming up and she wasn't included. Second, George had never played a parental role in none of the Bradley girls' lives. In fact, the girls rarely interacted with him other than the occasional car ride. Lastly, the family had never gone on a camping trip before and no real preparation had ever been made. But despite all the suspicions surrounding George, investigators never found anything directly tying him to their disappearance. So without solid evidence, no charges were ever filed. Now, as the days passed, the search for Tionda and Diamond grew into something very massive. Authorities set up command posts right in the neighborhood, working side by side with the FBI. Flyers with the sisters' faces flooded the Chicago streets, eventually spreading into other states as the story caught national headlines. The case had now become one of the largest missing children's investigation in Chicago history. And at the same time, Tracy was placed under a harsh spotlight. The public was very critical of her parenting. She was criticized relentlessly for leaving her daughters alone that morning. Her every decision was questioned and dissected by both the public and the press. Most people felt like she had something to do with her children's abduction, but after many hours of interrogation and a full investigation, authorities concluded she was not involved. By mid-July, as the investigators pushed forward, leads were coming in from every corner of the city, and investigators were chasing just about every tip. There was one report out there that described a suspicious white van near the Bradley's apartment on that same morning. But after the investigators checked it out, it was ultimately unfruitful. Then there was this report that surfaced of a man described as a white man in a coat talking to the girls at a nearby playground. Some claim he resembled Tionda's biological father, a Moroccan man who was already in a paternity dispute with the family. Now, with this information, the FBI sent investigators overseas to follow up, but once they got over there and checked out everything, no evidence came from that lead. Now, as the summer went on, the search for Tionda and Diamond began to lose momentum. What started as one of the largest investigations in Chicago slowly cooled down. Even with endless flyers, constant media coverage, and thousands of tips pouring in, none of it brought the girls any closer to home. For months, they received over 5,000 tips and rumors that kept the family's hope alive. There were people that said they had spotted Tionda sitting at a city bus stop, but once they followed up, it led them to nothing. Then there was others that swore they saw a girl matching her description in a corner store with an older woman, but when investigators checked the surveillance footage, it was too grainy and inconclusive to actually see if it really was them. Each sighting was enough light to spark hope, but that hope never lasted long. Detectives would follow each trail only to be disappointed over and over again. As the years passed, the investigation lost its momentum, but the family never allowed the case to totally disappear.
Today is the 10-year anniversary of the sisters disappearing. What's the hope that, the prayer vigil will come out of this, and what's the message to them if they're watching today?
I believe that we need closure because it's been so many years. Our minds wonder, what happened to them, what person could have took them or anything like that. But it's just that we need closure. We need to know what happened to our cousins or our relatives. It gets hard after a couple of years. The first years are the hardest, but then as it goes, it gets harder and harder. Basically, we need closure. That's it. We need to know what happened to our girls. There's so many other cases have been getting solved over the years that ours is still a cold case because we don't know what's going on or what happened to our girls. That's the same that you've been over the years. Where are our girls?
Okay. Now I know that you all said that this may be the last year that you do the anniversary vigil. Any particular reason why?
Well, there have been some new developments in the case that cannot be disclosed to the public, and it may be for some safety reasons that can't be disclosed. That I think maybe we should go private more so than public. Now, that doesn't mean that we will not be fervently still searching for them. But since I'm more in close contact with the development of the case, I have reasons to believe that soon someone will probably be arrested.
And you, I'm sure, discussed, some of this with your family. Is it a great feeling of hope? Is it cautiously optimistic about it?
Well, I can be optimistic about it, but then when you're given a fact that it has been 10 years, a lot of people would probably think 10 years has been a long time, just like my nephew was explaining. But for me, personally, it still feels like yesterday. So I have to remain as vigilant concerning the search for them, but at the same time, I have to maintain the integrity of the investigation. And again, since I've been more in close contact with the private investigators and the whole case school, I have reasons to believe that maybe a more private approach should take place at this time. But I think we're still undecided as to whether or not it should actually go private, because we wouldn't want to miss an opportunity to get the word out about them, while at the same time, someone holds this information and feel uncomfortable with bringing it forth because of, the overwhelming media support.
This disappearance didn't just break a family, it riled the entire community. Parents started making sure that they knew exactly where their child was and was afraid to even let them outside to play. Now, social media added another painful layer. By 2008, a young woman on MySpace claimed to be Tionda surfed, but it was just a cruel hoax. On July 6, 2021, the 20th year anniversary, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children released an age progression photo showing what Tionda and Diamond might look like as they grew older. Then in May of 2023, a woman from Harrison County, Texas, contacted the Bradley family via Facebook, claiming to be Diamond Bradley, who would have been 25 years old.
A woman in Texas claims to be Diamond Bradley, who was just 3 years old when she disappeared. CBS 2's Jermont Terry spoke to the Bradley sisters' great aunt, who is hopeful tonight. Jermont.
Erica, tonight the Bradley family tells us that the woman claiming to be Diamond did take a DNA test, and that will ultimately determine if she is who she claims to be. Now, the girl's great aunt, says that they've been down this road many times before, but there is something different about this new claim.
I got to see in this video, I'm looking at this video like, what is this?
The girl's great aunt, Shalia Bradley Smith, is speaking of a 20-second TikTok video.
This is Diamond Bradley. Can I see your scar?
Where someone in Texas was claiming she was Diamond, the youngest of the Bradley sisters. When the woman contacted the aunt, there was hesitation.
Look, I'm not the police. Call the police.
Over the years, listen to how many people have claimed to be the girls.
We've had about 12. But easily dismissible.
But the young lady making this claim did something no one else has ever done in nearly 22 years.
I've never known or experienced somebody so eager to tear down the doors of the FBI to prove who they are. So that gives me a different dynamic of hope.
Shalea says Chicago FBI agents contacted her and informed her they took a DNA test and fingerprints from the woman.
The DNA shall tell the truth.
The young lady told the aunt she can't recall much, including the whereabouts of the oldest sister, Tionda.
She reported of having these memories of being in a car with her sister, Tionda, before their separation. This woman underwent DNA testing and fingerprinting at the FBI's request, but nothing has come of it yet.
Women have come out of the woodwork saying that they were either Diamond or Tionda, and they just weren't. How did you emotionally process that?
Well, actually, you can't emotionally process it. You just have to deal with it. And to clear the record, there's been 16. It was one just last week.
Oh, there's been a new one since. It just
yes.
Unbelievable. Now, this one in Texas, this woman seems quite promising. April, other than the scar on the forehead that's in the same place as Diamond's scar, what makes you and the family members feel like this is different? This really could be something.
Well, it really is different because this young lady actually wants to know who she is. And not only that, she actually really wanted to go by herself to find out who she were. And she went by herself along with another friend to go give that DNA test. So that was different for us versus the FBI making someone else's go and get their fingerprint and DNA taken.
More than 20 years has passed since Tionda and Diamond Bradley disappeared from their home in Chicago, and still the truth remains hidden. As the years went by, a lot of rumors and theories started spreading. Some people were convinced George and Tracy knew more than they admitted. As for George, he failed his polygraph exam, was seen burning something that same day, and then this random camping trip. As for Tracy, she left them at home by themselves at such a young age, and supposedly her and George were the only ones that knew this. Now, I get it. Growing up back in those days, me and my siblings were left at home alone a lot as well. But of course, back in the late 80s and the early 90s, things were way different. Every year in America, more than 300,000 children are reported missing. That means nearly 1,000 children vanish every single day. While many are found quickly, far too many are never seen again. You know, the one thing that I don't get, social media platforms have so much reach, and I feel like they could be doing way more than what they are doing, or if they're even doing anything to help find these missing babies. For example, they could create permanent alerts that could be shared instantly across the entire network, but of course, we all know what matters to these people. Tionda and Diamond Bradley's story is a heartbreaking reminder of what is at stake. Until answers come, their family will keep fighting, and hopefully one day, with the help of technology and people who refuse to forget, the Bradley sisters will finally come home.
If we're going to pray, and then we're going to say Diamond and Tionda 7 times. Oh, gracious God, our Father, we honor you. We thank you for this family. We thank you for the circle of love, oh God. Again, we ask that you would bless each and every woman, man, and child that gathered here today on this 23-year occasion of Diamond and Tionda's missing disappearance, oh God. We ask and pray for you to bring them home safely, return them back to their mother, back to this community in the name of Jesus, oh God. We ask that no harm be to them, oh God, in the name of Jesus, oh God. We ask that you lift up this family, continue to lift up the family, oh God. Ease their mind, touch their minds, their hearts, their spirits, oh God. When they get weak, make them strong, oh God. Give them the motivation to continue on. And we ask, oh God, that you would bless everyone as they disperse from this part, but not from your presence. Give them traveling mercies, oh God, in the name of Jesus, oh God. So now we will call on the name of Diamond and Tionda 7 times, and we will release the balloons. Diamond and Tionda. 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 We love you. We love you.
This is a little dance. It's almost fair.
Thank you, God. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
All right, my beautiful family, let me thank you guys so much for tuning in. Starting this month, I will try my best to start putting out at least one missing children's video each month, because these stories deserve to be heard. Every view, share, comment, everything helps keep these cases alive and reminds the families that these children aren't forgotten. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit the like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications so you won't miss out on any of the new videos when I upload. I hope you all have had a wonderful, wonderful day. And until next time, stay mysterious, my friends.